Alright, testing, testing, testing. Also want to make sure my mic is coming through loud enough. Because I guess that's the only thing we're going to be listening to is my voice. I'm sorry for that. That's what you signed up for. Alright, testing, testing, testing. That's really good. Also want to make sure for as far away as I am from the mic, that is very good. Okay. Next step is to get rid of my dog's squeaky toys before I get on video. Okay, done. Welcome, everybody. Now let's do this switch nice and smooth. Nothing can possibly go wrong. Close this. And Matt, not yet. Switch to me. I'm here. Switch to the list. It's here. Oh, is that blown out? Why is that so blown out? Let me check to see if it's blown out on the video. Switch to me. Oh, I might have to get rid of the HDR. I think that's what's causing that. Capture cursor. Give me a second. This might blow up the stream. I shouldn't put that information out there. Give me a second. Boop. It is this one. No HDR. Okay, let's see if that fixes things. Blood owl. Oh, blood owl. And then blood owl. What's that look like? Let me mute this so I can just watch. This isn't playing. Okay, it is playing. Much better. Much better. Exactly what it should be. Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is my anime list. Well, this stream is finally going to get out of the way my top 10 anime and top 10 video games from the last year, 2021. Let me get back to chat. Nice. We're all set. We're going to start with the anime, I believe, to get that out of the way. And then I'll move over to video games. Let me get all my filters and stuff set. Is this zoomed in? Is it zoomed in a little bit? Zoom out. There we go. Now I can see everything. I just wanted to make sure there was nothing else to do here. Nope. Oh! Hello, Hector. Look how fancy I made my anime list for this. I had to go in and do some CSS editing with my advanced programming knowledge, and I got to customize all of this. I don't know if you've seen regular anime lists, but they don't look nearly as good as this. This is fancy shit. I did it just for this stream, so you better appreciate it. I'm filtering. Alright, so we're going to start with the anime first. So this list, this screen is just for this, or this list just keeps track of everything I've watched in general. I'm going to filter this down to stuff from just this year in order of ranking, or in order of rating. So let's do airing dates started from 2021 January. Anything that started January 1st and ended, we don't care about the endings. So let's just do till today. Whatever today is. Anything that ended before today. That should be fair. That should capture everything. And then sort by score. Descending. And then from there, I think that's it. I think that's it. Alright, do that. So that list shows up with, yep, this is accurate. This is accurate. Yes. Man, there were no 9s this year. Okay, hold on. That's not out yet. Some of these I haven't watched. Or some of these weren't available to watch. I didn't even score some of these. Okay, hold on. I need to also filter by status. Status completed. Can I do that? Score, type, watched episodes, rewatch value, priority storage, status. Try that. Oh, but I should have done... Is that right? I think this is right. This is what we want. How many? Yes. No. Yes. Kind of. Oh, let me click on completed. I didn't realize it put me back in all anime. That's what... Why did it put me back in all anime? Oh my god. Okay, do this. Do that. Yeah. And ended anytime. Whatever. And then also by watched episodes. Is that... See, I did it again. I don't feel like I had this problem last time I did this. But that's fine. I think this latest one... I think this is just it. I felt like I watched more anime this year, but maybe that's it. Where is... Oh, but these are also by the air dates. I don't want the air dates. I want the view dates. That's what we're doing wrong. Not airing dates. We want finish dates. That's what we want. I'm an idiot. I forgot. That's what I'm messing up. I don't care about the airing dates. Fuck that. I only want the dates that I finished. So finish date. There we go. And that should actually be the primary. There we go. The score is a secondary. Just to help keep track of things. But even then, it should just be... there we go. Because I finished this most recently. And there... Yeah. Much better. I was like, I know I watched a lot more than that this year. Although, when did I finish this? 12/08/20. Okay, so that's getting into last year. So this is the end of the list. Moriarty the Patriot was the last one. Wait, no, that was last year too. So this one. Yes. 21, 21, 21, 21. We got it. Still not a ton of anime, but I just knew there were holes, there were gaps in the schedule. Because I was like, where's Attack on Titan? But yeah, I still didn't watch a ton. Okay. So, everything from here up is stuff I watched this year. Right? Yep. So, with that out of the way, I'm going to leave this on screen for a second. I should put some music on in the background, but quiet music. Felt too silent. Maybe I should go to lo-fi. Lo-fi? That's good background music. I can't hear it, apparently. But that's fine. I think that's good. Alright. So the thing is, although this site is called My Anime List, alright, now it's a little bit low. It's a little bit high. Because I just needed this song to kick in so I can know where to put the volume. This list is just for me to keep track of what I thought at the time, and see everything in one place and make it visually nice for the audience. And this is where I'm actually keeping track of this list on another site called animeplanet.com, which is you can make custom lists that are a lot more visually pleasing here as well. So the combination of these two sites is how I'll be doing my list. So for example, I know Nomad, the second season of Megalobox, is gonna make the list. Well, actually no, I know Odd Taxi is gonna make the list. Let's do Odd Taxi. So I would come over here, type it in, and then poop or bop. So this is the actual list, and this is also how I'll be reordering once we get this far in. Like that, once we get things whittled down to 10, we'll reorder, and then that'll be our list. But this makes it a lot more visually pleasing than if I just came here and typed it, and this is just a plain screen. So, okay, enough explaining. We have to. What I want to do is do half the screen. I need one row of anime, and then the list at the top. So let's see if we can do that. Hold on. I want this at the bottom. Well, let's just do it manually. I don't think that Windows has a snap for bottom half of the screen. So we do that. Pull this out. I said pull this out. Oh my god. There we go. Maybe this one at the bottom makes more sense. It doesn't really matter, I suppose. Put that down there. I want to get rid of this top bar. Listen, this is all on the go. Just because I want to. Let's do... That's the only setback against fucking Chrome. It's like I want this top bar to go away, but you can only get that in full screen mode. I guess I could open a Edge window. Edge windows usually have a lot less bar up top, right? Not a lot less. I don't know if I'm okay with that. Turn on vertical tabs. Customize toolbar. Turn on vertical tabs. Ooh. That's almost fucking nice, but that just adds to the screen. It doesn't fucking take away. I want it red. Get away. Got it. Get away. Show tab actions menu. A high title bar while in vertical tabs. Yes. Show vertical tabs for all current browser windows. Don't care. So what if I do turn on vertical tabs? We're getting there. This is kind of better. God, my screen is so fucked. This might be better. Okay, look. For visualization purposes, this will probably be better. I hope it keeps my filtering settings. No, I clicked the other one here. Why did it turn green? This is a little bit cleaner. I want this bar gone too, actually. Whatever. That one's not as annoying as the huge chunk of bars that the Chrome takes up. Zoom, full screen, performance, alerts and tips. This is like the most I've looked into Edge settings ever. When did you switch to fucking Mystical Forest? That's stupid. Alright. Page zoom. What if I get rid of this? Nothing? Nothing. What's this button? Tab actions menu. And then this pins it. I don't even do that. This has turned into a lesson on all the ways you can change the look of Edge. Alright, whatever. Go back. Oh. This is a different window? What? Did I lose my website because okay, it's a tab. Okay, I was, alright. I don't care, Edge, calm down. So now, if we shrink this up. See, look at how much chunkier this stupid Chrome bar is. Okay, here's what we do. Yeah, this also has to go into Edge. Edge is just a better visual, at least for this specific thing. Oh, I already had Edge open, so it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Damn it. God damn it. Okay, let me just quit showing the screen for a second. I know this is thrilling, but we're all learning things today, alright? Alright, we're there. Yeah, sure, say the password. Maybe later. Alright. Did I even... God, now I have to remake the stupid list. Well, that's fine. That's easy. Boom. Okay. My top anime of 2021. Done. Okay, so now with that made, I can turn the thingy back on. Pull this out as a... Yeah! This isn't so bad. Okay. And here we are. Just a little bit better. Just a little bit better. I like this. Let me make sure it's actually showing before I get committed. Also, let me scoot this over. Don't they have like 1/3 options in terms of screen stuff in like Windows 10? I feel like they did. Like, I felt like they were like, oh, do you want this to be 1/3 of the screen? Then we can do that. But maybe they lied to me. Let me put Odd Taxi back in here just so... Do I have to hit enter? That's stupid. Never make me have to hit enter again, internet. Okay. Yes, this... I think this is working. The only thing is these two are covering up this last row of... But I don't want any of the anime from that last row. This row of anime sucks. That's not true. Okay. So, I think the best way is just to go over all of these from, and then to pick out the 10, since there's not that many. There's only like 30. I only want, or not even. I think I only watched like 20 something anime this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 18. Jujutsu Kaisen was 21? Oh yeah, it ended in early 21. It started last year, but ended... Wait, are those... Okay, yeah, those are... Why did it end the day after I watched it? Whatever. Fall 2020. So maybe... Started in 10/17. Oh, they put more episodes out of this, so that's one reason why. Wasn't this early 20? This was early 21. Okay, it's just because of the weird. It's because of the weird sorting. But this was definitely like the first anime of 21. I remember being excited for the second season of Dr. Stone, is what that is. Okay. Yeah, and it still makes sense that stuff that finished this year, or at least that I finished this year, would count. When did I... Okay, let's get more information on this. No, not like that, though. Give me my information on this. Uh-oh. What did I just do? Uh-oh. This view may not let me look at the... in-depth information on these. Add? Why is there an ad? Add what? Oh, maybe that's why I can't see the details of this stuff. No, that doesn't add up. Anyway. Yeah, let me log in here. I don't think I'm logged in. Hello, dog. As usual. This is already typed in, so that's fine. Oh, I'm gonna have to do the sorting again. That's fine. Oh, this is all for the fans. Finish date. Sending. Who made the mistake of subscribing or following or something? What was that noise? It doesn't even show up in my thingy. Score. Uh-oh. I can't get to the enter button. Annoying. Am I gonna have to do the filter again? I am. Finish date. Descending. Score. Descending. I guess I really don't need to do the score one. That's probably just complicating things, to be honest. That was me following. Oh, hello, Pirate, Tony, whatever your name is. Surprised that you weren't followed already, or following already. It says a lot about our friendship. Okay. So, where was I? Can I now see the extra details of this? Here we go, edit. There we go. Because now I can go into the history, and now it'll let me know exactly. Okay. I just didn't keep track of this, like, at all. Or maybe I finished, whatever. It's not like it's going to make the list. I just wanted to make sure I knew how to get to that information in case I needed it. Okay. So, first, the thing I watched this year was Dr. Stone Season 2. That's gonna make the list. Dr. Stone, Stone Wars, I gave it an 8 out of 10. So, let's put it, I'm going to put the stuff that I feel like are going to make the list on here. And then, if it doesn't, or if I have to make cuts, we'll get to it then. The rules, by the way, or the rough rules for my lists in general they are my lists, so I can break whatever rules feel like they should be broke. Mar does all the watching, not my fault. That's appreciated, or I understand that. So in other words, I try to lean toward, I don't do hard rules, I do leaning, or whatever feels best. So for example, if I watched an anime that came out before 2021, but I watched it in 2021, it's eligible for this list. But it's going to have like a handicap. Like I'm not going to put it as high if it's something that didn't come out brand new this year. In other words, something that I didn't like as much but came out last year will probably go above something that came out a long time ago, but I liked it more. Let's put it that way. So, in the spirit of the list, I'm trying to give anime that came out brand new last year the most credit. In which case, Jujutsu Kaisen started. It was like it was 24 episodes, so it started last year and ended this year. I wonder if that made it ineligible for my list last year. Let's look at my list from last year real quick. Oh my god, I don't want to have to. Can we duplicate this tab? There we go. I don't want to have to lose my list in order to do this. Okay. Custom lists. So my top 10 anime of 2020 would be useful to look at to make sure I don't redo anything. March Comes In Like a Lion, Kaguya-sama, Love Is War, Attack on Titan. See, that's an example. Yeah. A lot of last year was 2020, so we were locked up. So a lot of shit was old anime on my 2020 list that I had just went back to catch up on, like Hunter x Hunter, which I would not have watched in any other circumstance other than being trapped inside my house for months at a time. Okay, cool. Alright, so that means I'm clear on this list. God, I hate that. I'm clear on this list. I don't have to worry about redoing anything. So with that said, Jujutsu Kaisen's definitely got to go on the list. That's a given. That's a gimme. Jujutsu Kaisen. Why is there a 2018 version of Jujutsu Kaisen? I have questions. Oh, I can hover. What's this? Weird. Oh, is it 3 web episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen came out in 2018? Weird. We're not going to worry about that, though. I did not even remember Otsumatsu-san Season 3 happened this year. I'm going to wait before putting it on the list. But then again, we'll put it on the list. We got plenty of room here. No need to get stingy yet. Osomatsu. Osomatsu was really funny. I don't remember much about Season 3, though. And that belies a problem in and of itself. I don't think I'm going to actually put the Demon Slayer movie on my list. I also don't know if I'm going to put Attack on Titan on my list. Not because it would be just the first half of the last season, and I don't feel good about that. That's one of those leaning things where I don't lean towards wanting to put just like a chunk of episodes. It's not even, it'd be different if it was like a full season, like Osumatsu-san, that feels fine because it's a full season of that show. But Attack on Titan was half of the final season, technically. Even though that was still 16 episodes, which is a good chunk of episodes. That feels weird. Let's see if we can get away with not doing that. If there's enough stuff on the rest of the list, we'll try to get away without doing that. Is the Demon Slayer movie on my list twice? Okay, no. This is the actual show versus the movie. I mean, the movie was good. The movie was solid, but it didn't blow me away. It just kind of felt like a higher budget episode of the show, which a lot of anime go past that when they do a movie. So I'm not gonna put it on my list right now. I'm not gonna put Attack on Titan on my list right now, unless we just need to fill out the list. But I don't feel like that's gonna be a problem. Vivi, I want to give a shout out to because nobody talked about Vivi, but Vivi's very good. Oh, that's a TV special. Actually, like half this list is already done, but that's fine. Vivi came out early, the spring season, and it is a good sci-fi show involving AI and machines and all that. I liked it a lot. It had some problems. The pacing, it was a little bit off, and the music part of it, because it's all about robots that sing, or it's all about like idle robots, all of that, I didn't really care about any of the music, so all that stuff kind of like worked against it for me. Or not worked against it as much as just like I just had to wait for that part to be over. It wasn't bad, it was just like whatever. But overall, I liked the story. The animation was solid. And it was only 13 episodes, and it told a complete story from beginning to end in those 13 episodes, which is something that's always good when it comes to anime. So I'm going to give that, I gave it a 7 out of 10, but it's going to probably make the list just probably in the bottom half. I did the first season of Fate Stay Night this year. That's obviously a very old anime, and this season was rough. I feel like this is probably the worst that the Fate series gets. I was like, this is the year I'm going to get into Fate. And then I finished the first season of Fate, and I was like, I need a break from Fate. And now I have never gone back to it since January. Maybe this year I'll watch the next season to try to get into the good stuff that people really love. People really love fucking Fate. But I gave this first season a 7 out of 10. It was real rough. But I mean, it's also very old. This originally aired in 2006. I've been looking at the wrong numbers in terms of when I watched stuff. Okay, yeah. So this is a 2006 anime, and it shows, but it's also fine. It's solid. Anyway, moving on to stuff that we care about. Moriarty the Patriot started this. I thought that started last year, didn't it? It did, right? Yes, it started last year. We got the second season and the ending of the show this year. I'm not going to put a second season like this on my top 10. Is where I'm leaning at first. So we're gonna leave that alone unless I really gotta fill stuff out. Did it make the list last year? I should have left that tab up. Reopen, close tab. I thought I didn't have anything from this year on it, but Moriarty the Patriot should go somewhere. Okay, no, that wasn't on last year either. Because it's okay. Whatever, we'll think about it. I might end up putting it on. It was a pretty good show. I didn't really talk about it, but it's a Sherlock Holmes anime, but from Moriarty's point of view, and they did some interesting stuff with the Moriarty character, but not and the surrounding characters, not enough to make it great. Especially before I've been playing a game where it's Sherlock Holmes, so I'm defaulting to that. Especially before Sherlock Holmes shows up in the show, it's not as good. But the second season was pretty okay, pretty solid, which is why I gave it a 7 out of 10. But that means we're gonna. That's fine. This was not a super strong year for anime. I thought it was stronger than it actually was, mostly because I thought probably the second season of Love is War came out 2021 and it didn't. Nomad is going to be pretty high up there. So this is the second season of Megalobox 2, and this is an example of why I do allow second seasons in my list, because the second season of Megalobox is such a different show in such a great way. Like, Megalobox overall is a robot box, or like it's boxing but with like robot parts or like mechanical parts on top of the fighters. And the first season of Megalobox is a very straightforward. It's a remake of Ashina no Joe, which is a super old classic black and white, I think, boxing anime / manga. So it's like the classic original anime boxing manga remade with a mechanical overtone or whatever, because the main boxer is Joe, Gearless Joe, who is the only boxer who doesn't use any mechanical. He does for like his first fight, and then he doesn't use any mechanical machinery for his fights for the rest of it. And otherwise, it's just kind of like a Rocky. It is very straightforward. Of like, this is the fight this week. This is the fight this week. Trouble and stuff in the background, and then that's that. Megalobox 2, however, was a second season that we didn't need. The first season was all done with the story. I'm not going to spoil if he wins or not the final championship, because there's a championship and he's fighting to get to the top of the whole world. But we get the answer. There is the final fight in that last episode, and they don't leave it ambiguous what happens in terms of if he won or lost, for the most part, if I remember correctly. So we didn't need a season 2 at all. So the fact that they even did a season 2 is already a risk. But the fact that they went in such a different direction with season 2, which takes place a significant amount of time after the first season, and has Joe like hooked on drugs and not in a good way after something real bad happened after the end of season 1, like in between seasons. And they pick up the pieces from there to tell a whole new story with the same characters in a really interesting, in-depth way that I feel like is almost a better season than the original season. But they're so different, I don't like to compare them. But the point is, like, the second season of Megalobox, even if somebody was like, I wasn't into the first season of Megalobox because I'm not into those kind of anime, I would go back and tell them to just skip to season 2 and start watching there, because it's an anime that carries itself from that point, and that's really impressive for me. So that's definitely making the list, and it's probably gonna be towards the top. The Shirobako movie came out, or at least I watched it this year. I think it's the first time they put it in English. I think I went to the movie theater to watch it. Shirobako is the anime about making anime. It shows a lot about the animation process and how anime studios are always down to the wire when it comes to making their anime, and the troubles they can have in the production and everything. And that's really interesting to watch. If you still haven't watched Shirobako and you watch anime, I really highly recommend that you spend some time to just like get that perspective on why anime does the things it does sometimes, like recap episodes and missed deadlines and weeks. It's really interesting stuff. The movie, though, not fantastic. The movie was fine. It was like, if you liked the show, then it was like an hour-long episode of the show, and that's fine. It was fine. That's just kind of the best. So I don't think it's gonna make the list. And then we have the other movie I watched, or the third movie. I think I watched 3 anime movies this year in the theater. The third one I watched was Lupin the Third, the first. Lupin the Third, the first. The second part is referring to the fact that it's the first. It's a reboot. It's a soft reboot of Lupin the Third, because this one's a all CG movie. I think it came out like 2 years ago, And I don't know when they started doing it like dubbed or in English over here, but at least I watched it this year in theaters. And it was another good, solid movie. I'm not like... Lupin the Third is one of those like classic anime that not enough people these days have probably watched. It's just a really fun anime, especially for like the crew. It's all about the thief Lupin the Third and his crew doing stuff. But the scale of their adventures are always weird and get into weird. At least in the movies, I haven't seen a lot of the movies, but like from what I've seen or what I've heard about the movies, they almost always get into like some supernatural stuff with like artifacts and stuff that they're stealing in like a weird way. And this movie was the same kind of thing where I was just like, I don't know if I needed all of this weird stuff, but at the same time, it was a good ride. Had a good time. It was probably the second best anime movie I watched this year. I would still give the best anime movie to Demon Slayer, and then it was like a close second. Either way, I really liked it a lot, but it's not going to make the list. This is Star Wars Visions. You can't see it on the other side of all of the list of studios that worked it. But this is Star Wars Visions, which is definitely an anime. It counts. It's 9-episode anime. It might make the list. What's our list looking like? I think we have 5 things. Do we have 5 or 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 4 more. And I think we can accomplish that with putting it on the list. I think it makes it. For those who, for whatever reason, don't know, Star Wars Visions was pretty much the Animatrix, if you remember that, for Star Wars, where Disney went to a bunch of anime studios and got them to each animate I think they were like 3-minute shorts each, like 3 to 5 minutes. They weren't very long, but they got a bunch of different anime studios and creators to make animated Star Wars anime shorts, and they just did it as a compilation on Disney Plus. And there were more hits than misses for me in that compilation. There were like 1 or 2 really lows, or really like, I don't want to watch this again. But the majority leaned towards, this was pretty good, to, oh wow, that was really cool. So I gave it an 8 out of 10 overall for all the 9 episodes. So I think that makes it make the list. As long as, let's see if Anime Planet counts it. Star Wars. Yep, there it is. Star Wars Visions. Star Wars Visions makes my list. Top 10. We got the 5th season of My Hero Academia this year. I like My Hero Academia, but this was a pretty uneventful season, which just can't be avoided. Sometimes you gotta have a season of like catching up with the characters and in between like the bigger overarching plots, and that's what this season felt like. It was still a good season though, which is why I got a 7 out of 10. It just wasn't. It didn't have any super hype, over the top moments. So with that said, I'm gonna hold off on putting it on. It may not make the list. How many episodes of Demon Slayer came out? Oh yeah, that's right. It was all towards the end. And most of it was recap. Yeah, the latest season, the 2nd season of Demon Slayer is probably not going to make the list. Maybe instead of the second season of Demon Slayer, I'm going to put the movie. I don't know. This is the Demon Slayer situation is so weird, because the only episodes of Demon Slayer, or the main that at least finished in 2021, were just recap episodes of the movie. 7 recap. This movie told across 7 episodes. So with 1 extra episode at the beginning that gave us a little bit more prologue involving the Hashira, the fire Hashira. Rengoku? Yeah, Rengoku. I gave it an 8 out of 10 for that, just like I gave the movie, because it was just a movie again. I know they made some other small changes throughout the show, that like some small visual changes, some small writing changes here and there, but nothing like huge. So, man, I'm so sneezy. That means I start talking a lot. I don't think it's gonna make the list. Or maybe I should just put that as my excuse of it making the list. I think it's gonna have to for what is left, maybe. Let me think about it. Because what we have left is... Okay, let me put what I know is going to make it. Comey Can't Communicate is definitely making the list. Comey is going to be towards the top. This was on an anime on Netflix. And it is a comedy anime in the same vein of Love is War. And that I would say it's like a very high budget, high animation, super well done comedy anime, which is not super common, or at least they don't feel very common. They feel like it's happening more often now, but this was a very late contender. This started in October, I think. Yes. And I didn't start watching until December, and I caught up on it or November is when I started watching this. Doesn't feel like I started this in November, but apparently. Maybe I watched like the first couple episodes in November, and then I came back to it and watched a big chunk of them towards the end of December. I think that's how that worked. Yeah, that's what I did. I watched like the last 8 episodes all in like a week or two. But anyway, super fucking funny. I fucking love Comey Can't Communicate. It is up there with Love is War. It is not as good as Love is War, but it has potential. As far as what it's about, just like the best looking girl in school and possibly the planet, at least to the people at this school. Everybody loves on sight. All the girls, all the guys, they all just want to be like Comey or be with Comey or be around Comey. She's the absolute best. Everybody fucking loves her. But the most average guy in class finds out that she has social anxiety. So what everybody takes as her just being super... jumping to conclusions about her being really quiet when they talk to her or don't say anything back to her. They just jump to a conclusion based on what they think of her being so perfect. Is really just a result of her being absolutely scared and afraid of saying any words to anyone and having any kind of social interaction. And so the main character, the average guy, is pretty much average in every way except he's more empathetic and he can understand her. And she only communicates through writing down what she wants to say, for the most part. And he realizes that and helps her break out of her shell, and helps her to her overall goal is to make 100 friends before the end of her school life, and he's assisting with that. And it's hilarious. It's nice, it's touching, but mostly it's funny. So it's definitely going on the list. And I think that leaves me with 2 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 2 more spots. Okay, what's not making the list? I have a lot of 7s. Maybe this should be a 6. Is what this year, looking at this list of this year's stuff, maybe this should be a 6. Because it's definitely not going on the list. This is: the world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an aristocrat. Now, if I haven't made my... And I didn't skip over this, I'm going back to it. If I haven't made my feelings on isekai and super long titled anime known, by default, I automatically assume that they suck. Or at least that I'm not going to be interested. But I heard enough good things about this one's premise that I decided to give it a shot. And it wasn't horrible. It wasn't... I think for one of those, it's probably pretty decent. I'm going to leave it at a 7. I finished it. I liked it. Or at least I was interested in it. It had big problems for me, though. Which is why I'm not probably going to... I'm going to try to avoid putting it on the list. But it was fine. It is exactly what the title says. In our world, the best assassin in the world gets killed. And then he gets reincarnated into a fantasy world where he is ordered to pick the best stats, just like a RPG, pick the best stats and skills, and get reborn into a fantasy world in order to kill the quote-unquote hero of the world before the hero goes mad with power. So he is reincarnated he is reborn into the world, and he is told, hey, when you turn 18, the hero of the world will kill the Demon King, and that's good. We want him to do that. But then eventually he's going to grow mad with power and destroy everything. So we need you as the world's best assassin, or the best assassin ever, to kill the hero after he kills the Demon King, but before he goes crazy. And that's the whole premise. And so the main character spends the rest of the time doing everything in his power as a kid to prepare for when he'll have to do this assassination. And it's fun in some ways, but the main negative is it does the usual isekai thing. Everything involving females is stupid. It is stupid and annoying. He's perfect in a way of like hardly anything goes wrong for him in that Kirito kind of way that is also kind of annoying. But the writing of the show and the way that they make it interesting to see his thought patterns on what he's doing and why in order to get ahead in life as a kid before he needs to start actually assassinating. Like, imagine if the world's greatest assassin was in the body of a kid and he had to work as a kid in order to get as strong as he needed to in both physically and in magic, because he's in a different universe that involves magic. All of his machinations and plans, that part's the best part of the show, and the only reason why I made it through the show. But everything involving like the characters and the females around him is the worst of isekai. Or not the worst. It can definitely get bad. But in this show, that is the worst part. And it makes up too much of the show for me to let it go. So it is annoying. But I gave it a 7 out of 10. It could be worse. And I'll probably watch another season of it, or start another season of it at least once the next one comes out. So, not horrible. But, no. And then, so this is Tact. Tact Op Destiny. The main character's name is Tact, or at least they call him that. I don't think that's his full name. It might be a nickname. But anyway, it's a original anime, as in like it's not based on anything manga wise or anything. I don't believe. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, it is a show that had a lot of potential. It was looking like this year's, or the second half of the year's Jujutsu Kaisen. Or let me say it was looking like this year's Jujutsu Kaisen, because even though Kaisen there were episodes of Kaisen that came out this year, but it started last year, and that's when it really blew up and everybody was excited about it. This had the potential to be the same based on the animation in the first episode. This was just pretty much just an animation showcase of a world where there are these monsters that are attracted to music, so all of the world's music is outlawed and nobody can make any music because it attracts the monsters and they destroy everything. But there are conductors who control music arts, which are pretty much little battle chicks, little battle girls. So you have your conductor who conducts a little battle chick to fight the monsters, and that is all animated very well. It is a battle anime. It is not just like a battle of the week anime, at least. Like, it's not just like, oh, here's the monster this week, we fight him. Here's the monster this week, we fight him. It is actually it is a not great road trip anime where the main characters have to get from the West Coast to the East Coast across America for story reasons, and along the way, they get into different situations involving the monsters and other conductors and music arts. Most of the show is around the main two characters' relationships, like the main conductor and his little chick, or the chick that he was friends with before before everything happened, to make this situation the way it is what I'll say. And I was real excited for the show. The first couple of episodes, animation-wise, really knock it out of the park. But then it kind of just goes down from there. It starts really strong, and then it kind of just like plateaus in the middle, and then it kind of wibble wobbles its way to an ending, which it is a definitive ending. There's not going to be another season, I don't believe. It seems like it's going to be a one and done kind of show, and the animation doesn't really hold up as much, or at least it isn't. It's good, but it's not nearly as good as that first episode or the first half of the episodes, or the first couple of episodes, really. But it was enough for me to finish it. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's going to make the list from the looks of things. think we need one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need one more. So I might actually go down to one of the... is Demon Slayer? Okay, hold on. God, my nose just itches the whole time. Maybe it's the way I'm sitting. I don't know. God. Okay. I'm also thinking. I would rather put Demon Slayer on this list than The World's Greatest Assassin. Or My Hero. It's really, honestly, the last slot on the top 10 comes down to if I'm to one of these two. Attack on Titan, the second and a half season, or the first half of the last season, or Demon Slayer's movie / episodes going back over the movie. I'm gonna lean towards Attack on Titan. I'm gonna put it. Yeah, let's do that. This isn't anything against Demon Slayer, the movie, or anything in general. It's just like Demon Slayer. This mostly comes down to just a pure amount of content. Demon Slayer put out essentially an hour and a half, roughly, of new content in 2021. The show stretched that out to 7 episodes, but really, it was only an hour and a half stretched out to 7 episodes. Meanwhile, the first half of Attack on Titan put out 16 whole episodes, and they were all mostly pretty good and interesting, and something very different from the rest of the show. So I'm gonna give it to Attack on Titan's final season, even though the stuff I said on the first place that made me not put it there. Originally, I'm gonna have it make the list now, or I'm gonna have it. Yeah, I feel all right about putting it on the list. Here we go. And I didn't talk about Odd Taxi because it was such an immediate. It was my example for what it looks like. But the more I talk about Odd Taxi, the more I give away what it's about. It's going to be towards the top of my list. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Which, just for reference of my my scoring criteria, 8 is about as high as you can expect to get on any given anime. 9, you have to be something really fucking special to get a 9 out of me. Like 8 is like, this is really good. I would recommend this anime to other people if they are into a specific type of anime, or if this lines up with their interests. 9 anime are like, I would recommend this anime to anyone, for the most part. 9s are, I would recommend this anime to anybody, no matter what kind of anime they are in. I would say they should probably watch this anime. So, for example, I gave Love is War a 9. And I gave March Comes In Like a Lion second season a 9. I don't give out many 9s, though. They're pretty rare. And then 10s are just like, those top 10s are like anime that are special to me, personally. Like the cream of the crop, like nearly will always have an effect on my life, are 10s. And those happen almost never. I have to go out of my way to find those anime. That's the cream of the crop. So really 9s are like as high as you can expect an anime to get. But 8 is more likely. And I feel like Odd Taxi and Komi Can't Communicate are both anime that knock on being 9s, but have reasons for not getting there. In Komi Can't Communicate's case, I want to wait. If this had a better localization, it could have hit a 9. The problem with Komi Can't Communicate is they put a lot of text on screen, and it's only available easily, anyway, on Netflix. And Netflix sucks at subtitling. They did a bad, horrible job at subtitling Komi Can't Communicate. You miss a lot of the stuff they put on the screen because Netflix just makes a decision sometimes that you don't need to know what it said. And I feel like I don't want to give this a 9 until I can rewatch it, where that stuff is all there for me to understand. So that holds that back. Odd Taxi is a very particular type of anime that is in the same vein of like a Quentin Tarantino movie type of anime, where it's all about the characters and how they intertwine in this one specific situation. It's a world of animals where everybody's an animal, which plays some part in the goings-ons of the story. And it's mostly a story of like the underworld of Tokyo, or some shit happens in Tokyo. Like, our main character is a taxi driver who may have witnessed a murder or may be hiding the daughter of the mafia away from everybody, and that gets him wrapped up into some shady stuff. But overall, the whole show is mostly just talking, and it's not a whole lot of action. And there are people who just can't watch anime like that. So that's the only reason why not the only reason why, but that's part of the reason why it's an 8 versus a 9. Over time, I could see it just, my appreciation for it going up, and it might pop up to a 9 at some point in the future. But for right now, it's just a solid 8. Or it's a really good upper 8. And that is all the anime that I made the list. This is a list of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, that part's done. Next we have to quickly, I think this will be pretty easy to order. Part of me is like, man, does Vivi really make the cut for over Demon Slayer, even with everything I said about it? I feel kind of bad about that. No, it does. Vivi's gonna make my list because I wanted to get appreciated. And then, yeah, no, I think this list is good. This list is what it needs to be. Looking at the rest of this. So now, let's just full screen this, because now we're in reordering. Oh good, I can just hover over these in order to put the visuals back up, so that makes me feel better about that. And then let me zoom in. That is not helping. Well, it helps a little bit. Okay. Typing isn't needed for a little bit. Jujutsu Kaisen being on this list really complicated things for me, at least going in. I didn't realize that was going to be on this list. Complicated in a good way. Let's do this in top half and bottom half, and then I'll get more detailed on where things go. This is already getting a little bit involved, though. Unhighlight. There we go. No, that's gonna be in the bottom. Okay. This is roughly what I feel like my top 5 and my bottom 5 are gonna be, and I just have to order these. Let's do this. This is what I'm feeling. This bottom half is going to be easier. Tact barely made the list. Vivi barely made the list. I appreciate Vivi more than Tact for what it did in the story. Its sci-fi story was more interesting. Let's see what people rated these. Yeah, the little star, 4.2. General ratings, 4.2. People did not love Star Wars Visions. Did I love Star Wars Visions? I'm pretty sure I gave it an 8. I did give it an 8. But I'm not gonna put it that high, and here's why. Star Wars Visions is different. Star Wars Visions, for the spirit of this list, is different. It is an anime, so it is anime, but the fact that it was made around a property, a Western property, Star Wars, kind of makes it weird. Not weird, but also, I mean, minus all that, it was just not super. It was not a lot of content. Some of it was pretty not interesting to just okay. This will make me feel better. That'll make me feel better. Tact really went off the rails towards the end. Star Wars Visions and Vivi, yeah, I feel better about that. The third season of Osumatsu-san. I didn't talk about Osumatsu-san. It's a comedy anime. Another really good comedy anime. The third season wasn't the strongest. I don't even remember a whole lot of the third season. I didn't realize that this came out this year. I'm thinking back now, and I remember it more ish. It's also like a non-serial. It's like a serialized anime to where each of the episodes are kind of their own thing. So it's harder to remember what happens. But yeah, it should be this low. Yeah. I gave it an 8, which means, and I think that's better than I gave the second season, possibly. So it must have been pretty alright. I'll leave it here. And then Dr. Stone. Now, above this line, things get rough. Dr. Stone stays very good at what it does. If you don't know, Dr. Stone is all about the main character being a scientific genius who is reborn into essentially the Stone Ages of the world for reasons. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. But this is the second season of that show where the main character is using his encyclopedic knowledge of science to pretty much fast forward the world back to the modern day after everything is reduced to Stone Age times. And the second season keeps that going in a really good way. I'm trying to remember where the second season starts off and where it ends up. I remember that now. I feel good about that. I think I gave it an 8 out of 10. It deserves it. It's good. Shit, guys. This is hard. This is all hard. Like, a lot of these I could see being number 1. Which means it was a pretty good year for anime after all, possibly. These 4 especially are probably going to stay up there. These 2, I think this is the order. I think these are also where they need to be. Mostly because, like all the stuff I said about Attack on Titan's just first half of their final season, if they had put out all of the episodes of the final season all at once, I'd feel a lot better about putting this higher. Especially not knowing how this show is going to end. Because I've heard that people didn't like the ending to the manga, which means the ending to the anime is probably going to be just as bad. Unless they drastically change it to make up for it. So there's a chance that the second half of the final season retroactively makes the first half worse. Which is what I'm kind of scared of. There's also a bit of a slow start to the first half a little bit. It feels like a slow start. And some of the animation changes I'm not in love with as far as like the design of the characters. This season looks very different from the rest of Attack on Titan. For various reasons. Mostly a change of animation studios. They went from Studio Wit to Mappa. And it's different, but it's not horrible. A lot of people didn't like it, or there was some controversy around it, But I feel okay about it. It's fine. The fact that it's not higher on this list is a bit of a part of that, though. And I think that might be enough. Did I like it more than Dr. Stone? That's what we're asking here. I'm gonna leave these where they are. I'm gonna leave those where those are. Okay. Now we're getting into ooh. I think this is it. I think I need to make that move, and that's it. Yeah, I don't have to feel bad about this. I didn't expect Odd Taxi to be my anime of the year, but did I like it that much? I think I did. It's hard because I don't know if I liked it. Okay, let's keep going in order. Comey Can't Communicate. I talked about it at length. I liked it a lot, but it is not as good as Love is War, which has been like my number 1, number 2 in previous years. So I feel like this is a good spot for it. Jujutsu Kaisen. I feel like if certain people watch this, they're gonna be like, oh no, Jujutsu Kaisen, how is this not higher? The thing about Jujutsu Kaisen, maybe I need to, you know what? The thing about Jujutsu Kaisen, we're gonna do this. The hype is why I put it up as high as it was, and then I immediately thought about what I actually thought of the show, and I needed to knock it down. Not because it's bad. Jujutsu Kaisen is very good. The only thing is, Jujutsu Kaisen only has animation. At least in terms of what makes it special. Otherwise, it is a very straightforward shonen anime, and in some ways, even lesser than a lot of other shonen anime when it comes to story and plot and character development. It doesn't. But the thing is, the focus isn't on that stuff for Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen wants cool looking ass fights, and it has cool looking ass fights. However, that does not make a great enough anime for me to put it above some of these others. I really enjoy Jujutsu Kaisen. I look forward to watching Jujutsu Kaisen, but that goes for a lot of the anime on this list. It's mostly just the visuals in that show, which is why I put it as the highest. The visuals are the reason to watch this show on my list. Like, Tact Op Destiny, the reason to watch this show is the visuals. Star Wars Visions. Some of it's the visuals. Because they're all shorts, the point is you gotta wow me with the look of it, and so part of that is Star Wars. A little bit of characters and stuff, but mostly just like the visuals. Vivi has really great visuals, but it has a really good story. But it also slows down and it has some negatives to it, which is why it's not higher than Jujutsu. Also, the visuals don't get up as high, so that stays there. Mr. Otsumatsu is not super, but is not all about visuals, but it has good enough visuals to be this high, and has really good writing and characters. So, Jujutsu Kaisen's visuals are so much better than this, which has everything else going for it as well, for the most part, that it made it above that, and I feel good about that. That's as high as it's getting on my list. Dr. Stone looks really good, and it has a really good premise or concept, and it has really good characters and writing. Jujutsu Kaisen has really good visuals, and that's about it. Everything else in that show, that's from the story to the plot, is just what we need in order to get to the next really good looking fight. That's fine. So, I don't feel bad. Jujutsu Kaisen is number 6th best anime of the year. And the rest of these, I think that's That was the main thing. That was the main thing holding me back, was that part of the list. Attack on Titan. Komi Can't Communicate. Yeah. Did I like Komi Can't Communicate that much more? Yes, because this is just the first half of the final. I'm okay with that. I don't like Komi more than Attack on Titan in general, but more than just this first half of this final season. I laughed out loud during Komi Can't Communicate a lot, and that doesn't happen a ton. Like, Mr. Osumatsu, I consider to be a funny anime that I enjoy, but I don't laugh out loud a ton during Mr. Osumatsu. I laugh out loud a little bit. Komi, I was laughing at least once an episode, it felt like, out loud. Which is really what you want to try to reach with a comedy anime. Nomad really impressed me, and that's why it's so high. Again, because it was a second season we didn't need, that was way better than it had any right to be, and told a really great story with really good animation, a really old school animation style too, which should be mentioned. Is it like it is animated in a way that like an old school, like mid to late 90s anime would be animated, and it looks fantastic as a result. It just gets nice and dark in a way that shows like this normally don't. Also, mature themes. So I feel good putting it at number 2. Maybe. I don't think it's the best. It really comes down to a fight between these two. Odd Taxi is just so special. That's the reason why it's made it this high on the list. It's a one-of-a-kind, one-off, super specific concept that with an ending that really pays off and is still going technically, because we're getting a movie for Odd Taxi later this year, or some kind of weird OVA, like a one-off, like an hour, like a 45-minute one-off or something like that is coming later this year, we just found out. So it's not completely done. It's not completely one-off, but it could be, and it would still be really amazing. Even if it's very specific, I think what is going to happen is Odd Taxi is going to be my anime of the year, but the anime of the year that I would recommend to almost anybody would be Megalobox. So like everyone else's, my general anime of the year is Megalobox. My personal anime of the year is Odd Taxi. It's kind of what I'm leaning towards with this. And I think that's where, I think this list is done. I have a whole nother list to go through of games, so I can't spend too long on this, but I feel like this is where we're at. So now we go down to publish. Let's take a look at the finished list. It's published, it's finalized. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Shit. Come on. Fuck. Fuck. Hold on. Maybe it's okay. It's okay. We're alright. Yes, we're good. It's here. I would have remembered, and I just was like, oh no, I don't want to have to try to remember the order again. Alright, so this is our list. I feel good about it. Let's read it from bottom to top, and if I want to make a last second change, we will. We got number 10, Tax Op Destiny. Number 9, Star Wars Visions. Number 8, Vivi, Fluorite's Eyes Song. Number 7, Otsumatsu-san's 3rd season. Number 6, Jujutsu Kaisen. Number 5, Dr. Stone's Stone Wars, which is their 2nd season. Number 4, Attack on Titan, the first half of the final season. Number 3, Komi Can't Communicate. Number 2, Megalobox 2, Nomad. And number 1, Odd Taxi. Reading that through, that felt correct to me. This list is done. Moving on. I'm going to grab a soda as part of my break, and we're going to move on to my top 10 video game list, which will be a lot easier to display because we're doing it via Tier Maker, and I can just full screen this shit. So we're going to do a different system, and this will be much easier. Give me a second to grab a soda. Take a break. Okay. Actually, instead of soda, I got lemonade that I had from earlier to finish. All right. Second half of the stream, my video game top 10 list of the year. This will be, I feel like, tougher than the anime. So I went on Tier Maker to make a list of... I made a Tier Maker thing with all of the games that I finished this year, I believe. I had to manually go in and add these. Each individually by copying it. I had to do, like, find the box art and copy it in here and everything. So this is my personal, all the games that I finished this year or played this year. I believe should be everything. And then we have 1 through 10, and we're also going to have a spot for, so I can only do up to 10 tiers. And I'm going to want some honorable mentions of stuff that almost made the list, but not quite. Okay. We gotta get started. This is lemonade from Wendy's, and man, their lemonade is fucking strong. Alright. First, let's... So, obviously, not everything on down here is going to make the list. We're not going to have a ton of honorable mentions, so... This is just for me to be able to visually see everything. So let's start with the things that are definitely going to... Actually... No, I'm gonna... In order to make this interesting, I'm gonna eliminate, essentially, and work my way up. Because I have a really good idea for the top 3 spots or so. I kind of just automatically know it's gonna go there. So, things that I'm not sure, things that I feel like may make the list, but may not get above like 9 or 10 is what we're going to start with. So that's going to be things like, again, these are games that may have come out before the year 2021, but I played them this year, so fuck you. But again, if a game came out this year, it's going to be weighted more heavily and be more likely to make it higher up the list. Rhythm Doctor needs to go on here somewhere, but it may not make it past 10. A Hat in Time has to go on here somewhere. So this is AI, the Somnium Files. This game came out like 2019. It's a very weird game. I don't think I liked it that much, though, in order for it to make this top 10 list, though. So I'm going to hold off. I had a lot of fun with Dead by Daylight this year. If I skip over games, there's a good chance that it's not that I'm skipping them because they didn't have a chance at all. It's because they're probably higher up on the list. Or at least I'm expecting to put them higher up on the list. Deathloop may be in trouble. Dead by Daylight, I played a lot of this year with friends, and I actually like that game a lot, and I have never taken the time to appreciate it, even though I played it a lot like a year or two ago on my own, and then got way back into it this year with friends, and it made it even better. I think that game's really good. It might end up as an honorable mention. Okay. We're going to put everything that's going to probably go higher on the list in 9 right now. But I'm not going to order it. So, like, Deltarune is going to go higher. Chicory is going to go higher. We're kind of doing the same thing I did with the anime, where we're doing, like, a top half and a bottom half kind of feel. Death's Door is probably going to end up somewhere on the list. Then again, looking at this, maybe not. Which is why it's going in the bottom half. This is the Demon Slayer fighting game. Solid one of those. Not going to make the list. This is Destruction All-Stars. This was a game, one of the first PS5 games to come out this year. I love good car games. They're very rare. I don't like Sims. I like arcadey car games. And this is one of those. Plus, it's not even a racing game. It's a destruction derby game. super rare. I liked it, but it just didn't hook me. It didn't have enough, because it was like practically a free-to-play, multiplayer-only game, and they did not have enough cosmetics and stuff to keep the grind going. And it didn't have enough modes. Started running out of, getting low on players. Maybe if they do enough to this game, it'll be super big this year. It's been about a year later now, so hopefully they've added enough content to maybe have like a re-emergence. But not gonna make the list. Disc Room, a fun little, I don't think it came out this year, a fun little indie game where you just avoid and shoot discs. I think you mostly avoid discs. Maybe you also shoot discs, but either way, it's like a top-down, dungeon-y avoidance game that was pretty good. I beat it, I believe. I'm pretty sure I beat it, and it was pretty solid, but I don't think it's gonna make the list. Doki Doki Literature Club Plus is my excuse to be able to put Doki Doki Literature Club on one of my top 10 lists. This game came out for free in 2019, I believe, which is why I didn't feel like that made it. I felt weird about putting a free video game on my top 10 that year. Plus, I think that year was pretty stacked in terms of games, so it may not have made it legitimately anyway. But this is this is like a for money version of Doki Doki Literature Club put out, where they added enough content and they brought it to consoles. The original game was only on PC. And they added enough to where they could charge for it. So I think it's $15, $20. But it deserves to be on the list now with the stuff less because of the stuff that they added, even though I enjoy the stuff they added. I didn't see all of it, but I saw a good chunk of it to get an idea for what they were going for. And this game in general just deserves a little bit more recognition. So it's going to at least make the list, but I actually don't know if it's going to get very high, so we're going to put it down there. Exo 1 is a weird game that hardly anybody has heard of unless you play Xbox. Came out late in the year, like November. It's a weird sci-fi game where you play as a spaceship that turns into a ball, and you control the gravity for it, the gravity for your spaceship, as you traverse other planets and worlds. And it's just like a very, like, a vista kind of game. Like, you just see for miles and miles around on these, like, alien planets that you're traversing. And the whole thing is, you have a button that makes it to where you have, like, 100 times gravity on whatever planet you're on. So you fall very fast. So you want to hit, like, a hill and roll down that hill with 10 times gravity. And then when you let go of the button, you get, like, moon gravity. So you have, like, half the gravity of the planet or whatever, so that makes you very light. So you want to use the momentum to roll down very fast, let go of the button, and then that makes you jump and float up, and that's how you get. And then once you're in the air, you can kind of flatten out and glide. Feels good in most of the time, and that's what it's about. Is just like that one mechanic is like practically the whole thing. There's like a story overarching, but it's one of those things where they give you the story in bits and pieces, and you can't really recognize what's going on unless you do some deep dives and try to put together a bunch of pieces that I don't give a fuck about. And it went on for a little bit too long, too. Like, some of the levels were too long, and there were too many levels. I was already pretty done by the time, but I was so close to the end, I, like, made myself finish it, but didn't need to be that long, so it's not going to make the list. The Flower Collectors is an interesting story game that focuses on, again, another world of, like, animals, but it's not, in this case, the animals are mostly just visuals. They're not actual little animals. But you play as a former police officer who is retired, a retired police officer who is stuck in, or not stuck, but he's wheelchair bound. So he just stays in his apartment all day, looking out from his balcony through some binoculars. And one day you see a murder. And this is kind of taking place in 1950s Barcelona, which was a time of revolution, I think, for that area of the world. So you see like a murder that may be related to police corruption and some other things, or like the government, and a young reporter comes to you for information, and you end up kind of like teaming up with her and directing her from your balcony to move around. So you are only just looking off your balcony for information around your neighborhood. And at times you are directing her around to do stuff physically in the neighborhood for like finding evidence and stuff in this like mystery of this murder. It's solid. It's good. I don't know if it came out this year, actually. It might have came out last year and I just got to it this year. But let me scroll the screen so I can... My screen dimmed from it being still for so long. It was good, but it's not going to make the list. Forgotten City is going to be in like the top half of the list, and we'll get there. I'm not even going to explain the stuff that's definitely going to be in the top half of the list, or at least I'm not going to... Not right off the bat. Forza Horizon 5 is a very good racing game. Very pretty racing game. It's a racing game. I don't think it's going to make the list, but we'll see. Guilty Gear Strive. I like me some Guilty Gear. This Guilty Gear was not for me. At least in terms of like... They pretty much did like a soft reboot of Guilty Gear with this. Or not a soft reboot, but... They went back and they redesigned all the characters. And I didn't like most of the redesigns. The visuals are still very good, but... The supers don't look as cool to me. Guilty Gear is a fighting game, like a one-on-one fighting game, by the way. Like a 2D fighting game. But overall, I didn't like this Guilty Gear as much as previous Guilty Gears, and it's not going to make the list. I'm going to leave it at that. Griftlands, I won't go into a long explanation on what it is, because it'd be kind of complicated. It's like a deck-building roguelike, but it is... also like a kind of like a choose your own adventure on top of that, where a lot of situations you get into, you play as a mercenary on an alien world initially, and there's other it's not like a deserted world. It's like there's a bunch of other mercenaries and criminals and stuff like that. You're in the city, and you have a deck for when you get into fights and you need to battle people, but you also have a deck for just having conversations and trying to convince people or persuade people to do what you want. So you have two decks of cards that you have to manage, and they both play very differently, and it's well made. It's probably going to be an honorable, but I finished 2 out of the 3 characters, which means I probably had enough of that game, which means it probably shouldn't make the list. At least not for right now. We're going to leave it there. I'm going to have to go blow my nose. Hypnospace Outlaw is going to make at least honorable mentions, if not the list. It came out, I think 2 years ago in 2019. But I only got around to finally playing it this year. And I'm happy I did. It's a super weird... They found a way to make a video game out of being on the internet. Hypnospace Outlaw has you being getting hired as an internet enforcer in the 90s, right when the internet was starting. So like the late 90s into the 2000s, early 2000s. So not only do they design a internet that looks and reminds you exactly of what the internet used to look like back then, but they make a really good game out of you. You start out doing like simple stuff like, hey, we need you to go through all the websites on this message board and clear off any of the copyrighted. We have like a copyright strike from like the creator of like a cartoon. Go through all these websites and get rid of as many of the copyrighted images as you can. We'll give you money for that. And that's an example of like one of your early cases. Another one might be like, hey, we have a lot of reports of bullying and threats on these boards. Can you go through and try to find evidence of bullying and threats? So you're clicking through. You're just clicking through on like a computer to do that. But things get really interesting in the back half, both from like a story point of view and what they are able to do with that interface of just being on websites that you wouldn't expect in a super smart and a super well designed way. I really like Hypnospace Outlaw and is making at least the honorable mentions, if not higher, just based on that premise alone. Inscription is going to be higher. In Sound Mind was one of the... So these games aren't all the games I played this year. Because you'll notice there's a lot of my October scary games that I didn't even bother to throw in here. Most of the scary games I play, most of the games I play in October, would not hold my interest if I wasn't streaming them. Which means they aren't even in the running. But In Sound Mind was the best of the games I played in October this year, the best scary game I played. And even then, it's not going to make the list, but I thought it should at least be in here for consideration. It's fine. Wasn't super scary. Wasn't too long. Had good enough gameplay. Kind of weird, but fine. I'm not going to go into it too much. Knockout City is going to get at least an honorable mention, if not higher. It was a dodgeball game that came out with a lot of promise. I really like dodgeball in real life. I want to play more dodgeball. It is very rare to find good dodgeball video games, and this is a good dodgeball video game that was multiplayer only. But it had the same problem as Destruction All-Stars, where it didn't have enough to hook. Part of that is because it's a team game. In order for me to be able to get really good at ranked, I would have to have a team that I know. I can't play with randoms in order to get that high in its ranked mode, so I can grind it all that much for fun. And also, like, the gameplay is good, but I kind of didn't feel like it had enough to keep me interested in the long run. But it's a good game. You gotta scroll in order to keep things going. This is gonna be super hot. Lost Judgment. I'm happy I played before my cutoff, my deadline for Game of the Year, because it came out to be very good. Lost Judgment is the sequel to Judgment, which is a spin-off of the Yakuza series. I like Lost Judgment a lot. It does a lot with its school stories. I finished the school stories on stream to kind of give an example of what that was about. The main story ended up pretty solid. I think Lost Judgment is a game that has a lot of interesting, good concepts that come together to just be an okay, or a really good game, but not great, is what I would say, maybe. At least in respective of the rest of the Yakuza types of games. It's a good one of those, but it's not a great one of those. But it does a lot that's different, so we'll leave it there for right now. It'll probably make it somewhere. This is Melty Blood. Type Lumina, which is a fighting game that just came out this year, or was rebooted kind of this year. It's a very much older fighting game that they just put out. It's been gone for a long time. This is the first time they put it out, and it came out, and I liked it a lot. I liked it more than Guilty Gear. If I had a favorite fighting game of the year, I probably liked Melty Blood more, which is a shame, but it's fine. But even with that said, I still didn't love it, and I didn't play it a ton. I never even played ranked on my own, really. I mostly only played it with friends in person, and that was a good time, but I don't think that's good enough for it to make the list. I'm not going to explain every single one of these, I think is what I'm getting down to. Unless they're just really interesting, I'm going to kind of do some quicker go-overs now. Although a lot of the ones I've explained so far have been good. Like, I didn't explain that much about Forza Horizon, which means, yeah, I'm doing a good job. Okay. Monolith is a really cool roguelike shoot 'em up, and I enjoyed my time with it. I want to play more of it now that I think about it and try to get... I don't think I beat it. I think I got to the last boss and died, and then I never got that far again because it was a game that got, like, harder the more times, the further you got in, or the more times you died. So, at least for the first little bit. So I don't know if I ever got that far again. I don't know if I beat this game, but it was very good, worth mentioning, won't make the list. Also, I don't think it came out this year. I think it's an old game that I just played this year. Naraka Blade Point was a battle royale melee fighter, where everybody's using like swords and stuff instead of guns and like in the usual battle royale, and it had a nice Asian theme to it. Played it for like a good month, maybe less. Had a good time with it, streamed it, had a good time streaming it, but overall I didn't like the mechanics and the feel of the combat enough in order for it to make this list. Nier Replicant is going to be on the list. No More Heroes 3 is going to be on the list. One Step from Eden is an older game I think that I played early this year. That was like, if you remember the old Mega Man Network battle games, specifically, where you were like on that grid and you could move around on a grid when you use cards to do attacks. That's all One Step from Eden is. Somebody was like, we like that, but we want to make that game, but just with the fighting, and we want to make it a roguelike, and with a multiplayer component, but not a great one or okay one. One Step from Eden was solid, but not great. Won't make the list. Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye, definitely making the list. Persona 5 Strikers. Wait, did I click the wrong thing? Persona 5 Strikers is definitely going to make the list. Where on the list, I'm not sure. Actually, this is feeling good. Anyway, Persona 5 Strikers is a spin-off, technically, of Persona 5, but really it's the next game in the Persona 5 universe. So it's like Persona 5 and a half. But it's a very different game. It's like a Dynasty Warriors beat 'em up, where you are running around and you are fighting a bunch of other personas in person, like you're directly controlling, you're doing the fighting yourself. It's not turn-based like the original RPG was. And it feels good, it looks good, it sounds great. The story was way more important than it had any right to be. So it's definitely making the list. Or at least it might be an honorable mention. But I'm going to put it towards the front because it's a good contender. Pokemon Unite, not going to make the list. It is a Pokemon MOBA that got me to play a MOBA again for a good long while, and then they made a patch that broke Gengar, and I don't care about it anymore. So, not going to make the list. Predator Hunting Grounds, is my screen dim again? It is, okay. Predator Hunting Grounds is a game like Dead by Daylight where one person plays as the Predator and everybody else is soldiers. It's not a very good game, but it's fun with friends. It's fun enough with friends. Not going to make the list. Psychonauts 2. Looking at this list, this is probably not going to make the list. It's going to go in my honorable mentions for right now, but so many people have loved Psychonauts 2 this year, and I just don't have that love for it, is what I'm coming down on. Not in the same way, but whatever. We'll tackle Psychonauts 2. I like Psychonauts 2 a lot, but I do not love it the way that a lot of people have loved Psychonauts 2 this year. Oh man, I'm realizing now that this is actually gonna be pretty tough. But whatever, we're gonna keep moving. I'm gonna get to the point where there's more than 10 in the top half here, which is gonna be a problem, or not a problem, but that just means that there's gonna have to be some harder cuts made. So this is less. These are honorable mentions, and these are definitely on the list. And this is more. These are most likely to be on the list, and these are most likely to not be on the list. But we'll see. So Ratchet and Clank. This is the only Ratchet and Clank game I've ever finished. I started the remake of the first one, didn't like it enough to get past like the first few hours, but the look of this one, as one of the first really big PS5 games visually, fantastic looking game. The look of the game is almost what's making it on this list alone, if it makes the list. The story is solid, the presentation, everything presentation wise is why it's on this list mostly, and the gameplay is pretty solid but simple gameplay. It's not gonna blow any minds. It's not a very complicated concept. It's just a run and gunner, but everything around the gameplay is enough for it to possibly make this list. Same with Returnal. Not same, but Returnal, I love it a lot. It feels really good. It's a roguelike shooter in the same vein, or not the same vein, but it's a roguelike shooter. Actually, the first PS5 game. It came out before Ratchet and Clank. Standalone PS5 game, and fantastic looking, fantastic playing. The story leaves a little bit to be desired, but I have to beat it again in order to probably get the rest of the story. But I don't know how I feel about the way they presented the story for me to get a full understanding anyway. It came out with no save, so you have to do all your runs in one go, which kind of worked for me, but overall probably should be a knock against that game, because one single run in that game could be up to like 2 or 3 hours. And that would be 2 or 3 hours that you have to sit and play non-stop. Otherwise, you have to restart. And that's a knock against it, even though that wasn't a big problem for me. Resident Evil Village I liked. Alright. I'm going to finish talking about Resident Evil and then I'm going to blow my nose. Resident Evil I liked a lot. Maybe it doesn't make the list, but I'm going to put it there for now. We'll see. Let me blow my nose. So annoying. I have no idea why. My nose only gets bad when I talk for a long time. It hasn't been a problem in the past. Okay, actually, I realize we're actually getting pretty far in the main list here, which is good. Okay, let's keep going. I'm gonna put Resident Evil Village here. It's probably not gonna make the list, or I'm not gonna even say that. Actually, I will say it probably isn't gonna make the list, but I like it enough for it to be in the running. Sable is, what if you took Breath of the Wild, crossed it with Journey, and that might be it. Somebody took the climbing and gameplay minus the Somebody took the traversal and world design of Breath of the Wild with the combat and look of Journey and made one game. That's what Sable is. Sable is, I can climb anything that I see based on stamina, but this is a desert planet, and there's also gliding from Breath of the Wild, which is also based on stamina. But I am in terms of like the story and what you're doing gameplay wise, is you are a alien who has come of age, or a person who has come of age, and as part of your clan's coming of age ceremony, you get your first motorbike thing, your first hover bike, and you were just said, okay, now go out into the world and figure out what the fuck you want to do with your life. That's it. We're not going to tell you where to go, or at least we'll give you a hint for like the first place you may want to go, but otherwise, go out there and do your thing and do whatever you want. And it's fine. It's a good premise, and it has a very striking look. But I just really ended up not... I finished it, but I really didn't care all that much. So it's like a 7 out of 10, 6 or 7 out of 10 kind of game. Let me put it that way. So it's not gonna make the list. Space Court was a free game actually, which is why it's not making the list partially, probably. It's a short little free game you can download on Steam right now. Very funny. You just play as a judge out in space who just got the job overnight and has no idea what's going on, and nobody's helping you figure anything out. And it's a comedy game, mostly, where you're just dealing with disputes between different alien races. Well written, quick to play. It's like a one-sitting game. You'll be done in like an hour or two. But it's funny, and it's a good time. Space Court is free on Steam. Not gonna make the list. Good game. Splitgate is Halo with portals. It was fun for a time. Burnt out on it. But very good game, worth mentioning. Not gonna make the list. 12 minutes. Very promising concept. This 2021 was the year of time loop games. Like, there are like 4 or 5 games on here that all are about time loops. In general, this was the year for that. 12 minutes is the one that's not gonna make this list. It had a really good premise where you were just in one room of an apartment, and every 12 minutes the time loop is gonna restart. And you need to find out why this man is knocking on your door at the end of those 12 minutes and killing you and your wife. And why they're there. It's supposed to be the cops. The cops bust into your room and arrest your wife or kill your wife, depending on how you handle it. And then time starts over. So you have to use those 12 minutes over that time loop information in order to figure out what's going on and what's happening. And where that story ends up rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, to the point where people hate that game now based on the way it ended alone. I don't feel that strongly about it, but at the same time it's going to be enough for it to keep off my list anyway. Even if I like the ending, I don't think that game is good enough to make the list, looking at how this is shaping up. Also, they just wasted a month. The game was like $30, and it's probably like a good 3 to 4 hour game. Probably, if you sat down and played it in one go, you'd probably finish it in 3 to 4 hours. But it's a $30 game, and the only reason it costs that much is because they got like a voice cast that made no goddamn sense. They just didn't need them. They got Daisy Ridley, the Star Wars chick, to voice the wife. They got James McAvoy or somebody McAvoy to voice the main character, the husband that you're playing as. He's the guy from Split, if you remember that, or Professor Xavier in the later X-Men movies. They got him to do the voice for the main character. They got William Dafoe to be the bad guy, to be the main bad cop. Cool, but I didn't need any of this. And you just made the game cost like double the price because of the voice cast alone, pretty much. So just mentioning that out loud, not gonna make the list. Fuck that game. I technically played UFC 4 this year with Miles a lot, so I put it on the list as something that I played. I played a pretty good chunk of the single player, and I played a bunch of a bunch of matches against Miles. It's okay, not gonna make the list. Umurangi Generation is this game. This game actually came out like last year, I think, in 2020, but I didn't get to it until this year, I believe. Yes. And it's a game where it's kind of like Pokemon Snap, where you just take pictures is the main thing, but you're taking pictures in like what looks like a Jet Set Radio kind of visual style world at a time when there's some kind of revolution happening or some kind of war happening, and you're just like a photographer on the front lines, kind of, not in the front lines, but like in the city while the war is going on, in a sci-fi kind of war kind of way, without getting too much into spoilers. So each level just has you doing a couple of missions, or doing a couple of objectives. You finish your objectives, and then you leave the level and you go on to the next one. And while you do that, you get better parts for your camera that let you mostly take pictures the way you want to take them. Like, the game gives you the objective of like, hey, take a photo of this specific, find a cat in this city and take a picture of it with this specific lens. But overall, they want to give you a lot more pieces of the camera that let you take photos that you actually like the look of. Which I'm not huge on photography, so I couldn't make use of that a whole lot. But I appreciate the story that game is telling a lot more after I watched videos on what it's exactly about and what's happening. So I wanted to mention it. But I don't think it's going to make the list for me personally. But I really like that game, and more people should know about it. Shit. Unsighted. It's going to definitely at least make the honorable mentions. Unsighted, just to go over it quickly, is a top-down Zelda-like in terms of like, if you can picture like a top-down Zelda, and then you have the combat, a bigger focus on combat with a little bit of a focus on puzzle solving and dungeons. But you play as the big pull of it is you play as an android where everybody in the world is androids. There are only androids left, and all the androids, including you, know when their time is going to run out on their battery. Essentially, to keep this short, everybody knows how many days they have left to live on their battery before they go crazy and they become an enemy, one of the enemies in the world, essentially. So the main thing is time is always against you. There's always a time pressure because in-game time is always ticking while you're dying and regenerating and having to start over dungeons and stuff, or start over fights and stuff. You lose that time is mostly what you lose. You find items in the world that let you extend that time for not just you, but other people in the world. So that involves shopkeeps and NPCs, all NPCs. You can give them this item to give them more time on their clock. And that comes into play for upgrades and shops and stuff. It's a very cool idea. It ended up not being as much of a pressure on me because if you're just used to playing action games that involve, like, the system is very high on, or very big on parrying and that kind of damage, like that kind of gameplay system, like parrying is a big mechanic. If you're used to playing those games a lot, it's not that hard, which means you don't die a lot, which means you don't have that time pressure on you as much. Plus, if you're good at exploring, you find a lot of the currency that lets you extend people's time. So I almost didn't end up having to use any of it on myself at all. I don't think I ever did. So I pretty much just sat on a ton of it and only used it when people's time were about to run out that I cared about. I probably could have kept everybody in the game alive and beat the game as fast as I was going. But I did let somebody pass away because I wasn't sure about that. But if I played through again, I would definitely try to keep everybody alive because I finished that game with like a bunch of extra of that item that I didn't need to use because I was just that fast. I'm gonna blow my nose again. Okay, not helping. Sucks. Anyway, that game's not getting higher than, or we'll see what happens with that game, but I liked it a lot. Combat was good. I didn't love the graphics. I liked the graphics when you were running around and fighting. I didn't like the graphics when you were talking to people in their portraits and stuff. So, it's probably not getting higher than that. WarioWare, get it together. I love WarioWare. This was not a great WarioWare. It was an okay WarioWare. They tried something different. It didn't work out. Not going to go into a long explanation. Just not going to make the list. It's not bad. It's still a good it's still an okay WarioWare. It's just not the best. Wildermyth, I at least should probably put in the honorable mentions. I did a lot of streams this year with Wildermyth, but that's the only reason I played it. I have no interest in Wildermyth to play it as a video game on its own, which means it probably shouldn't even make honorable mentions on this list, to be honest. But it is a game that is kind of like D&D, but procedurally generated. Like, it's an RPG, a turn-based tactical RPG where you go in, you can make the characters to your liking, and then the story automatically procedurally generates events based on what's on the stats of your characters and the choices you make and everything like that. It's very well made. The procedural generation is really amazing, but I don't give a fuck. Or at least I would not have liked it on my own. The only reason I enjoyed it was I was able to make friends and then put on streams for them to watch what happens and make decisions, and that was very fun. It is a legitimately great game that I just personally don't care about. Is the way I'll put it. Which technically should make it an honorable mention, but whatever. And then Wolfstride. Man, I want Wolfstride to make the list, but I don't think it's gonna. Wolfstride is probably one of the latest comers to the list, where it's an RPG, a mech battle RPG that is super heavily anime inspired, and I like it a lot. And I don't have enough space on this list for it. So it's probably going to end up in honorable mentions. I'm not going to go into too much more detail on that. I streamed some of it. Yeah, I didn't stream. I just had one stream where I just streamed some of it, and you can watch that if you want more information. Has a very good look, has very good characters, has fantastic voice acting, has an okay story. It has a okay anime story that is an anime story, which means it has problems, but it's still pretty good. Man, okay. Either way, we have now narrowed down the list at least from the chaff to the great stuff, or the greatest stuff. Our honorable mention list is going to be a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but that's fine. How many do I have here in the probably going to make the list category? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Shit. Fuck. Alright, so here's what's going to happen. I want Wolfstride on this list. It's probably going to be number 10. But I want it on the list. So I'm going to have to cut some other stuff. Yeah. And fuck Psychonauts 2. Or not fuck it, but I can't make this list looking. I didn't realize this year was this stacked. Fuck. Alright. This is the hard part. I didn't talk about Rhythm Doctor because I thought I was going to have more time to talk about this stuff, but Rhythm Doctor is a really good rhythm game, which happens more and more rare these days, but it's an original rhythm game that is in the same vein of a Rhythm Heaven, where it's about kind of like a micro game kind of rhythm game, but they're all based around just tapping the spacebar to the beat. It's very fun. I liked it a lot. I need to play more of it because I think they put out more DLC for it. Like it a lot. Honorable mention. A Hat in Time didn't come out this year. Probably one of the best 3D platformers I've played in a long time. If this year wasn't so stacked, it might have actually made the list. Honorable mention. Definitely. Deathloop. Really thought it was going to make the list. But this kind of... This fucking list is too stacked. Deathloop had a really good concept, really fantastic starting premise that it didn't follow through with. It is about, hey, you are in a time loop where you have to kill, you have 10 people on this island or so, or like 8 people on this island that you need to kill all in one loop. And you need to do loops over and over again until you figure out how you can line that up to get it done all in one loop. And it turns out that figuring that out is not as much fun as that sounds, because the game kind of like walks you through a lot of it. I didn't have as much problem with that, but besides that, it was good, but mostly this is just coming down to this competition is too stacked. This competition is too stacked. So it's not going to make the list. It does have some of the best voice acting of this year with the 2 main characters. Probably my 2 favorite, the best African American voice acting for both female and male that I've ever heard in video games, is what I will say. I like Deathloop's voice acting that much. But that's not enough for it to make this list, but it is enough for it to be an honorable mention. Death's Door. Wow. Not wow. Death's Door was, a lot of people like Death's Door this year. It is in the same vein as Untitled. It is a top-down Zelda-like, a lot closer to Zelda, with a little bit of a, I don't even think it had a parry. It doesn't have a parry, but it has just a very simple, or not very simple, but it has a simpler combat system that is very akin to Zelda's combat and magic system. Same exploration, a lot more exploration and puzzle solving in Death's Door than combat, but the combat is also like, it's like half and half. It's a really good one of those, very good looking, good premise. You play as a a crow who's in charge of reaping souls, which is why it's called Death's Door. And for reasons in the story, that process is stopped, and you're kind of helping get it started again, kind of. The look of the game is good. The gameplay is good. The exploration in the world is fine. I thought it was going to make the list, but again, stacked year, not going to make it. Honorable mention. That's the only other one I didn't talk about. Okay. Now. Resident Evil Village is not going to make the list. Or Resident Evil Village is now an honorable mention. There's a lot of I liked Resident Evil Village a lot more than I thought I would. That alone is an accomplishment. I heard when it came out earlier this year, I heard the reviews of it and I was like, all right, so it sounds like another one of those. A not bad one, but nothing that I need to play. After I played it, I had a lot more respect for it, but we're getting down to the nitty gritty where I have to nitpick everything in order to make this list. Resident Evil overall didn't feel very special, or at least not in any ways that impressed me especially. It was a very good looking game, but gameplay wise, it was just like, hey, we made Resident Evil 7, now let's just smack more Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 7, and we have Resident Evil 8. Which is good. Resident Evil 4 is one of the best games of all time, but it's not better than Resident Evil 4. It's not as good as Resident Evil 4. There are parts of the game that I just wanted to get through. The pacing felt a little bit weird. It's not gonna make the list, ultimately. I think Wolfstride is a game that's not as good as Resident Evil Village. However, in general terms. But for me, Wolfstride does something a lot more special. It's a much smaller game that's doing something way more impressive for a first time out game. So for me, Wolfstride makes my list. Resident Evil is going to make everybody else's list, and it should, because Resident Evil is a good game. Nobody's played Wolfstride. Nobody's paying attention to Wolfstride. It deserves more. It deserves more attention on it, so I'm putting it on my list partially because of that. And it's not because the game is that much worse than Resident Evil Village. I am just aware. I'm not going to let my bias say otherwise. It is not as good of a game as Resident Evil Village. The problems with Wolfstride just come down to it being a smaller budget game made with a smaller team. If it had more people working on it and it was, a bigger studio, I think Wolfstride could have been something way bigger deal. But even with the limitations it has, it does so much, it deserves to be on the list. But probably number 10. Is this 11? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So what this comes down to is now we have to get rid of Chicory. I thought Chicory was going to make the list. Chicory was the other very late game, very late comer to the list, or to me playing it. It was like the last game I played right before my limit or cutoff for the game for the year. Chicory deserves mentioning. It is a very special game where you play as the only person in the world who can make things. The only person in a world that's black and white that can color in the world. You have the main mechanic is you get a brush that you can use to just paint everything you see any color you want. Well, any of the colors they give you at the time, which changes based on where you are in the world, and you can color it in. But that is the main gameplay mechanic as well, and it's not just visual. So on the surface, that sounds like it's mostly going to be about coloring stuff in, and it's going to be mostly talking to other people, and it's not going to be very gamey, but they managed to put combat in the game that involves the painting. They managed to put puzzle solving in the game that involves the painting. The game ended up being way more gamey than I expected, especially during the boss fights. They managed to put boss fights in this game. While it has a very serious story about mental health issues that's told very well, I was going to skip this game entirely until I found out that this is the next game from the guys who made Wander Song, which was one of my favorite games of all time. So I immediately was like, oh wait, no, this is the next game from them? Okay, now I have to play it. I wish I would have played it earlier. And I could definitely feel the writing from that same team, and I really appreciated it. But now, and it jumped onto my list. I was like, okay, now that I played it and see what it was doing, I wasn't way into coloring stuff in because I'm not super creative that way. I didn't care about coloring in the world. I just did enough to get through the game, which was a sizable chunk of a game. It has a lot of cool ideas, but if you're not a creative, then that stuff falls flat, and that's kind of what happens to me. I just didn't care enough about coloring stuff in, so that's a whole part of the game that I didn't really engage with. So that is the thing that I'm using to make the cut of knocking it off the list. So now, this is officially what's going to be in our top 10, and then this is all honorable mentions. These are all games that could have made the list, or at least I feel strongly about that they should be mentioned. I'm going to put Umurangi on there too, since that's what this is about. Yes. I almost thought about putting AI on there, but AI is so weird. I'm not even going to explain how this game works. It's so weird. It is so fucking weird. But it's good-ish. Is it good? I'm going to put it on here. The rest of this is Flim Flam. Okay, so immediately, because it barely made the list, these are the 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this game will go here, which means this is the 10th best game of the year for me. The rest of this is all honorable mentions, and they're kind of even in order. I'm not gonna do a hard, fast, ordered list here. I'm just gonna kind of do what my feeling is. Yeah, I feel good about that. Should be higher. Should be higher. So these aren't in exact order, but this is like a rough feeling of like the closer they are to the front, the better honorable mention they are, but only roughly. All of these games are really good, and I could recommend to most people to at least give a shot. Okay, now we're into the actual fucky list. Which I think this part will be actually pretty quick. I say that and I immediately am not sure of the next game. I kind of think I am. I think Ratchet & Clank is going to be number 9. Based on me looking at the rest of the games on this list, I think it's going to be number 9. It's very good, but it's not that great. But visually, since visuals are the main reason it's making the list, or presentation is the main reason it's making the list, I'm going to actually bring it down to 10. I did it. Wolfstride's going to beat it. Ratchet & Clank's going to be number 10. The gameplay is just too simple, or the gameplay is just not special enough. And I hear that other games in the Ratchet & Clank series have done better weapons and stuff. Since this was my first one, the weapons were good enough, but they did kind of get like kind of meh. So the fact that it gets to be on the list at all in a year that's stacked this hard is an accomplishment. Do I like it that much better than Village? I do. I was really wowed by Ratchet & Clank in a way that I wasn't with Village. Okay, still feel good about that. Okay, so this is going to be number 9 now. This is the new number 10. Next. is fucking hard. Kind of. Actually, no, it's not. Next is Inscription. I didn't talk about Inscription. Everybody is going wild for Inscription because it came out mid-November or something like that. Maybe early November. And it's getting so many people to play a deck building game that hate card games. I played a little bit of on stream. I liked Inscription a lot. It does, without getting into spoilers, it starts out as a deck building roguelike that turns into a way bigger thing, but it's still all based around the same card game. Story-wise, it's very special. Meta-wise, it gets into some meta stuff that's very cool. Visually, it looks very good. The initial premise is it's supposed to be like a spookier game. I think it came out in October, maybe the end of October actually, since it was supposed to be kind of spooky. No, it did come out in October because it was one of my spooky games, so it came out in October. But it goes places, very interesting, very cool. For me personally, it wasn't that big of a huge, mind-blowing thing. A lot of other people are putting it so high because they're like, oh my god, this game did so many things that I didn't see coming, and it was just amazing. And I'm like, I played too many games that do meta stuff for me to be that impressed with Inscription, at least to that point. It is on this list, it is this high, it's impressive, but it is not mind-blowing for me. Like, it is really good, but it is not gonna get any higher than that, probably. Let me do one more note. One more blowing of the nose. We're wrapping up. Okay. We're getting there. The rest of these are going to go kind of quick, I feel like. The decision is just going to be tough. So that's where Inscription goes. Next is Returnal. These are going to be my gut feeling placements. Is it Returnal? I like Returnal a lot. I can keep playing Returnal for like ever. That game feels really... We're going to... This is the reason why this gets tough. The test here is between Returnal and Nier Replicant. Now, Nier Replicant is a remake of the first Nier games that came out a while back. It is a full remake. It's not just a remaster, to my knowledge. Well, it's right on the border between remake and remaster. But they did a lot of work to it to bring it up to modern standards from its PS3 days, maybe PS2. I really love Nier as a series, and this game brought it in a way that's really good. I like Nier Automata more, but it was good seeing where Nier Automata originated from. Gameplay-wise, it's a hack and slash action RPG just like the other game. The characters are good. The story is solid or good enough. This comes down to, but it being a remake of a game is a knock against it in terms of like a game that came out in 2021, where my weighting is. That's a knock against it, and there's a lot of grinding in that game. A lot of grinding that is not fun. Or at least is not great. You don't necessarily have to do that grind, but it's definitely a grind. Now that I remember. Okay. So what's going to happen now is that. I wanted Nier to be represented more, but after I thought about it more in terms of this list, It's not as good as Nier Automata. It's still very good. It made the list in a very stacked year, and that should be good enough for it. So Inscription moves up. Returnal is better than both of those. Returnal I can always just pop back into and have a good time. And it feels so good. And I want to keep playing through it more just to kind of get to the story, where the story is again, or get the rest of the story. I like it. Let's move these up so I don't have to keep scrolling up and down. We're getting down to it. We are getting down to it. I'm leaning towards Loop Hero being the next one on this list. Loop Hero is just so fucking amazing. Loop Hero is amazing because of it's so original of a concept that I can't even really explain it. You'd have to go watch a video, and even then you're not going to still get it. You really have to play Loop Hero to understand what Loop Hero is. Loop Hero is kind of an idle game where you set it and forget it, but you don't really completely forget it. But you play as a guy in a forgotten world for story reasons, where like the bad guy won and erased all of existence except for you. And you are using your memories of what the world used to be to rebuild the world. And that alone is a really fantastic premise to start off of as far as story and the idea of the game. So all you remember starting out is like a loop of a road, and your little guy automatically runs around that loop on his own. You don't get to control it. He automatically goes at the speed he goes. And while he's on that road, he fights enemies that he remembers, like skeletons and basic RPG enemies. You don't have any control of that. The fights are all automatic. So most of the time, you are just watching him do the loop. But you get to place the stuff in the world that he remembers around that road. So buildings and mountains and forests and everything that made up the world, you are placing in the world for stat bonuses and different effects on the actual loop. That's the overarching quick version of what that game is. The idea is so original. I love the concept. It is done so well, and with a graphic with like pixel art that looks fantastic, and reimagining of common tropey RPG enemies that give them really interesting stories and stuff. Loop Hero is amazing. So the next fight that's happening here is Loop Hero versus the Forgotten City. The Forgotten City is probably the best story game of the year, now that I think about it, because I mean it's a game that's based all around story, and it is the last of the, well, not the last, it is yet another time loop game that came out this year. You play as a person from the modern day who ends up in this city back from Roman times, and there is, for supernatural reasons, you end up in this city back from Roman times, this underground city from Roman times, where it's like a group of like 20 people who are all living in this city, and they all live in fear of the golden rule. Without getting into spoilers too much, the golden rule just says that if anybody in the entire city sins at all, everybody dies. Everything is over. If there's even one person who sins, and you are end up there from the modern day, and you are ordered by the leader of the city. He says, "Hey, I have it on good authority that somebody's going to sin today. Somebody's going to fuck up today, and I know it. I just don't know who. So I'm going to ask you, an outsider. I'm going to give you the full detective powers to be able to do anything, go anywhere and do anything you want. Talk to everybody and try to figure out and let me know who's the person who's going to sin, so we can predict, so we can prevent that and save everybody." That is the initial premise. That story goes in a lot more ways, and where the time loop fits in is you will end up breaking that rule, or you'll run out of time to figure out who did it, and then you loop back to the beginning of the day and you have to try again. So you use information from multiple loops to try to figure out this mystery. There's a lot bigger things going on, but it is so immaculately done. They managed to sidestep a lot of the time loop issues with that kind of gameplay, where it's like they smartly know if they want you to do what they want you to do in this game, where you're supposed to accomplish a lot in a single day, they are constantly aware of all the things that you have already learned from the loop, and they let you offload that in a very in-game way, to where I know these are the things I need to do today, but I don't want to do them every time I do the loop. So I can push these things I'm going to do every loop off onto this one specific character in the game, and he'll go do them for me because he's super nice. Like they write the writing's really good, and the mechanics of the time loop have been thought about so deeply that they make that really impressive to interact with without it being annoying, to avoid frustration for the most part. There are some down parts of the game, not down parts. There are some negatives to the game, but not many. Most of it is just walking around and talking to each other because it's based off of a Skyrim mod. So that's mostly what you do anyway. But there is a little bit, there's a section of the game where you do end up like shooting bows and arrows at monsters. And it doesn't feel great. It just feels fine. It's not horrible, but it just kind of feels kind of weird in a game with this kind of premise. But it's fine. And I think you can even in the settings turn off those parts if you just want to skip them. They're so unnecessary. But I played them and they were fine. Anyway, that versus Loop Hero. I'm going to give it to you. This is very hard. I'm going to give it to Forgotten City. I was going to say something and I don't think it's true. I appreciate when games that make mundane things interesting, or a game. Similar to Hypnospace Outlaw. I love Hypnospace Outlaw because it made just moving around on web pages interesting and into a video game. This makes kind of like a detective-y kind of talking to people simulator into a video game. So I'm going to give it the nod over Loop Hero. These two are practically on the same level, though. It's very hard for me to even stick to that. Like on a given day, I might flip-flop these two, but just so I can get through right now, I think I'm going to give the nod to Forgotten City. Because Loop Hero I finished, but I also didn't want to play any more of Loop Hero. And there was more for me to do in that game. Like, it has, like, 3 whole other classes that I could have played as that I just really didn't like. And I don't care to go back to play as those classes. Which isn't a negative against the game as much as just, like, that's where my enjoyment ended. So I think I'm going to take that into consideration. Forgotten City doesn't have anything I want to replay it for either, other than it's a time loop game. So you have to technically replay it over and over again no matter what. So you squeeze out everything out of Forgotten City no matter what, and you feel, in order to get the best ending, and you feel complete with that game. Loop Hero, I beat the game, which is very difficult, or takes work, but I don't really want to go back to try to improve on that, and that's the only real thing I'm going off of to let me know which of these games I should put higher. But like, I'm just going to end up saying these could flip-flop on any given day. These are very close, but this is where I'm going to leave them for right now, unless I change my mind before the end of this process. Next is going to be Deltarune Chapter 2. Deltarune is the spiritual successor to Undertale, one of my favorite games of all time. This is the second chapter of that spiritual successor, which was not necessarily even supposed to happen, but we are going to get a total of 7 chapters of Deltarune. And the second chapter makes me feel very good about that. At the same time, it's only the second chapter, which is a very small chunk of a game that could be going, that could end up being bad in future chapters. It's only chapter 2. I don't think that's going to happen, but depending on where the story goes, is another one of those situations where I feel weird about putting the second chapter of a 7-chapter game so high on a Game of the Year list, when technically the entire game is going to be in 7 parts, and at the very end is when I should really rate the overall product. But it's each chapter is coming out like a year or 2 apart, so I'm going to treat them as their own games. Chapter 2 is this good. but I'm not going to put it higher, and I'm not going to even talk about what happens during it because it's all story-based. I streamed it. I think people watched it, or most people watched it. It's a very good stream. I need to go back and do what is the equivalent of the evil run in Deltarune. The fact that I haven't even gone back to do that, I should probably... Should I knock it down? Should I knock it down? No. I really like Deltarune. I'm going to leave it there. I think it's another case where I could have flip-flopped it with 3 and 4 and feel fine about it on any given day. But for right now, I'm going to leave it there just so I don't have to think on it too much. The rest of this list is pretty much made, by the way. Like, I know where these all go, for the most part. I'm going to leave Deltarune at number 3 for right now and just see if I feel any weirder about that at the end of the process. Next is No More Heroes 3. The possible conclusion to my favorite video game series of all time. No More Heroes, the franchise, No More Heroes 1 and No More Heroes 2, are my favorite games. I don't think they're the best games. I don't think they're masterpieces, necessarily. They are just hitting all the pieces that I want out of a video game, personally. They have some otaku stuff, they have some anime stuff, they have some video game, over-the-top video game stuff. They have a lot of different ideas, a very colorful cast. The gameplay is pretty not great. But everything else around that makes up for the gameplay so hard. Even though this one frustrated me so much, like playing it. Even with that, it has to be this high on my list. Has to be. Has to be. Especially if it's the conclusion. There might be more games. I don't know. But it sounds like this is the last game with Travis Touchdown as the main character. Which, you know, that happens. That's fine. But yeah, No More Heroes 3 is a trip that I'm happy to have taken. Maybe I should have played it on easy. I don't know if the frustration I went through paid off in the end in terms of gameplay, but it was fine. I got through it. And the story was okay, not fantastic, but solid for one of these. Good enough, rather, for one of these. Solid. Anyway, second best game of the year, No More Heroes 3. I spoke it. And then finally, my game of the year, which is not a full game, but is a DLC, Echoes of the Eye DLC expansion for Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds, which is one of my favorite games of all time, got this DLC that nobody knew was happening, or didn't. Again, Outer Wilds was a game that was completely 100% done on its own, for the most part, didn't need to be touched again. And then they were like, by the way, we're going to put out an expansion to it out of nowhere, and it's going to be kind of spooky, it's going to be kind of scary themed, but it's going to add on to the original Outer Wilds, which was already one of the best games of all time. So I went in with I didn't have any expectations for this. This could have just been a small little thing that would have been a nice little thing to play, but not a huge thing. But it ended up being a DLC expansion that felt as big as its own game, almost, or pretty much, in a whole new space with really fantastic ideas. Without going into spoilers, Echoes of the Eye is my game of the year. Even though it's just an expansion, just this little piece of Outer Wilds is better than all the rest of the games I played this year, in my opinion, which is why it's number 1. Not even a full game. It's that impressive. But I count it because you could download Echoes of the Outer Wilds and Echoes of the Eye, only play the Echoes of the Eye section, and you would still have a complete experience. You wouldn't feel like you need to do more. You would want to, but you don't have to. You get a full beginning to end story and gameplay loop in that one little chunk of the game, so it might as well be its own game. But it does tie into the overall game story, just in like a more specific way. Anyway, I think this is the list. think this is the list. No, Psychonauts. I really feel like I am being rough on Psychonauts, but I'm not. I just feel like the rest of the world is being too nice to Psychonauts. Kind of. So, from bottom to top, not counting the honorable mentions. These are all honorable mentions. If you see a game here, play it. That's what honorable mentions are about. They're not in the top 10 just because this year was a really stacked year for really special games. But play these fucking games. These are all fucking great. These are all amazing in their own specific way. They just... If I had played some of them during the years that they came out, they probably would have made my list. I just got to them late. Play these fucking games. Especially Doki Doki. You can play Doki Doki for free. Don't even play the Plus version. Just go out and download Doki Doki Literature Club on Steam for free. Play through it. It's a good time. A good, kind of fucked up time. Do that. Anyway, the list. Number 10, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Number 9, Wolfstride. Number 8, Nier Replicant. Version... There's a long number for the version that I would like to say, but I don't. You know what? Just for this special occasion. Version. Nier Replicant version 1.22474487139 ... is our number 8 game of the year. Number 7 is Inscription. Number 6 is Returnal. Number 5 is Loop Hero. Number 4 is The Forgotten City. Number 3 is Deltarune Chapter 2. Number 2 is No More Heroes 3. And the best game of the year, in my opinion, is the Outer Wilds DLC expansion, Echoes of the Eye. We did it. And it only took much longer than I expected. Or not much longer. Took nearly 3 hours. But this is a stream. That's a stream. That's a good, solid-ass stream. Thank you for watching. If you did. If you made it all the way through this whole thing. Amazing. Thank you for being here. It's appreciated. Even if I was here on my own, I'm happy I did this on screen. I'm going to share this on Facebook like I usually do. Good list. Hector, is there anything... I was wondering... part of the reason I wanted you to watch, though, is there anything that... Do you think... I know you're not going to do a list. Do you think that Resident Evil Village would probably make your top 10? I imagine you only played, you don't play as many games as I do. Or at least you don't have as much time. Or you're willing to play less games for a longer amount of time. So, where do you feel like you ended up on Resident Evil? I feel like it might be your game of the year. I'm mostly just wondering. And I know you didn't finish Far Cry 6. I'm trying to think of anything else big that came out this year. It would be on my top 10, but not game of the year. Do you have any idea what your overall game of the year might be? Oh, you finished Far Cry 6. Was Far Cry 6 worth it? Do I still have the chat showing? It was okay. That's what I thought. I was like, Hector, don't be crazy. Far Cry 6 sucks. But you finished it, so it's probably okay. Do I have my chat on the screen? I do. You just can barely... Yeah, I did. It's still a spooky font. I need to change that. Anyway. You never answered if, do you think you have a game of the year? You can just say nah if you don't want to think about it. I bet my bet would be Resident Evil for you, even though you didn't talk about it a ton. I can't think of any bigger games you played than Resident Evil this year, because you didn't have a PS5. And I don't really remember you talking about any other games. Yeah, actually I don't. Yeah. That's understandable. Resident Evil would be a fine game of the year if that's what you had to put in that slot. Let me finish my chat. I didn't really play that many new games this year. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I played a fair amount, but, you know, font settings. Text color, let's make that white again. Text color white? Yeah, text color white. There we go. I had to fix the chat. Anyway, yeah, I was making conversation before the end here. And then, yeah, don't forget my... So, reminder, my anime list is always available to everybody for viewing throughout the year. I specifically went in and did all these customizations for it for the stream, but now this is what it's also going to look like from here on out. So, if you're ever looking for an anime recommendation, reminder that my anime list is always available. I think it's just myanimelist.net/TristenKW5 maybe. Either that or else just go on at myanimelist.net and then search for Tristenkw5 and you can find my list for viewing even throughout the year while I'm viewing stuff. And this was my top 10. I'm gonna put these on my Facebook, immortalize them forever, and it'll be good. Thanks for watching. I had a lot of fun. Happy I got this out of the way. Thanks for sticking it out with me. Hope your 2022 is better than your 2021, because every year should be better than the last year. And you have I don't know when I'm going to stream next. Probably next month. A lot of games come out next month, though. Next month is the big month. There's like every game that got delayed out of 2021 got put into February, it feels like. We got like the second Horizon game comes out next month. I don't even know the list off the top of my head, but it's like a bunch. I'm pretty sure the remake of Advance Wars got pushed to next month, and I really want to play that. There's like, I'm going to buy like 4 or 5 $60 games next month, it feels like. It's a lot. So I don't know how my streaming is going to be affected by that. I don't know if I'm going to stream any more this month either. We'll see. I'm playing Onimusha right now, which is I'm playing like the remaster of Onimusha, or like the port on a whim. I was just like, I should finally see what this game's about. And it's like, hey, what if we did Resident Evil, but instead of shooting zombies, you were sword fighting demons. That's what Onimusha is. It came out on PS2 originally, and I'm playing through the first one. But in the way that I mean, it's Resident Evil, like the original Resident Evil, where you walk through a door and you get like a still picture as your background, and you're just running through the still picture until you get to the next door, and then it's a still picture as the background. Like, it's that old school kind of Resident Evil game, with the puzzles and all that. But instead of shooting zombies, you're sword fighting demons, and it's kind of easy. And I'm already, after like 2 sessions, probably 2/3 of the way done with it, if not more. I thought about streaming it, and I just have been too lazy. But maybe now that my setup is already back up, I might stream the rest of my ending of that game. We'll see. But yeah, all right, enough stalling. I'll let people know before I stream again. Thanks for watching. This has been fun. I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a good night. Until we meet again. Later.